All right, so we're going to go into 9.2 today, and I'm not going to stand in front of the projector. I've already given you all the PowerPoints for, I think I need to give you the PowerPoints for 9.2. If not, I'm going to give them to you um, on this. You'll have the PowerPoint for 9.2, so you can do a little split screen and look at it while I'm talking. So the Western lands, and we're talking about Western lands, would be Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee. They were very wild, put it that way. Ohio, especially, was just all full of trees, and there was a lot of Native Americans in all these lands after the war. After the war. So just because we won the Revolution and we got all that land all the way over to the Mississippi River, it didn't mean that there weren't still people living there. Now, people wanted to settle on that land, and they took a real chance settling that land because they could be killed. Well, isn't there an army to protect us? No, there is no army to protect us there. So you're kind of like on your own if you want to do that. Now, did you pay for that land? Well, no, not really at first, because people were just settling on the land and they decided that I'm taking this much land and that's it. Well, what if somebody else was there and said that same land that you took was theirs? Could be a problem. Could be a problem. So you had to work it out, or there could be some violence. They call that frontier justice. Frontier justice. And the other problem that we had in the new Western lands was the British. I thought we were over with the British. They still had forts there, and they were still harassing the Native Americans there and eventually be harassing us. So the British did not leave like they were supposed to leave in the Treaty of Paris. They still had forts even in the Ohio Valley, absolutely in the Ohio Valley, up by the Great Lakes. Great Lakes. So, what are we going to do about actually giving this land and making some money as a country? They came up with a great idea. It was called the Land Ordinance of 1785. Land Ordinance of 1785. Make sure you know that. Land Ordinance of 1785. And it provided a more orderly way of selling the land and putting people on that land north of the Ohio River only. North of the Ohio River only. You see, there was a lot of land north of the Ohio River, and they called it the Northwest Territory. It was just a territory. Now, what they said was the territory would have to uh, be given in little sections, little sections. So this is the way that they're going to sell the land, and the government's going to make money. They would take little tiny. It's actually on page 256 if you want to look at this, because I can't replicate a map as good as what they have on page 256. So you want to go there. That's a good place to go. But they made townships in each of these little blobs of land. And we're just going to take Ohio, for example. Each township was 6 miles square. All right, 6 miles square. Get that? 6 miles square. And for 6 miles square, inside of that 6 miles square, they made 36 little square cubes. 36. They were all 1 mile square. So 36 little cubes, 1 mile square. Now, what in the world am I talking about? Let's take Austintown, for example. Austintown would be 6 miles square, 6 miles north, south, east, and west. Make a perfect square. It doesn't, but we'll say it does. Inside of Austintown, they have 36 parcels of land cordoned off at 1 mile each. Now, how many acres is 1 mile? 640 acres. 640 acres. Okay. So we learned a little bit from that. All right, 640 acres. The government wanted to sell this land at no less than $1 an acre. $1 an acre. So it could be more than $1 an acre, but no less than $1 an acre. That means if you bought 600 acres at $1 an acre, it's $600. What's an average acre cost today in Ohio? Roughly about $2,000. Maybe a little bit more, maybe little bit less. But that was a pretty good price. Now, one section that would be sold, one 1 mile section, of 640 acres, that money, whatever they got for it, the least they could get is $640, or they could get a lot more. That money would go to support a school in that township, a public school. A public school. Good idea, right? All the kids in that township would go to that school. Like Austintown? Absolutely. At one time, Austintown had 12 single one-room schoolhouses. 12 of them. One of them right down the street on Mahoney and Raccoon Road, where that little plaza is. There's a one-room schoolhouse. I know there was one where the walking bridge crosses Mahoney Avenue. There was one there. After a while, they thought, maybe we ought to put all these kids in one school. And so they built the Austintown Centralized School. John Fitch donated 8 acres. He had 400, but he had donated 8 acres to that school that we used to call the old AMS, or the old Fitch High School that they tore down on Mahoney Avenue. All the kids went there from first grade to 12th grade, and then they expanded on that. So, wow, would you ever think of that? Could you get everybody in a one-room schoolhouse? Well, that's why they kept building more of them. Eventually, they had to build bigger schools. So Austintown has grown a lot. We've grown a lot. Now, the one-room schoolhouses weren't much bigger than the room that I have right here. How many kids could you get in there? 20, 30, maybe. Maybe you would. I think I might have some pictures that I can show you of some of those schools. Okay, I have a book here, and I don't know if you can see, but here's a picture in 1916. 1916, Austintown Centralized School. Here's a picture of John Fitch. This is why we call our school Fitch. There he is right there. He donated the land. Here's a picture in 1920. Look at those school buses. So if you'd like to look at more things about Austintown, you can find this at Barnes and Noble. It just says Austintown. Hey girls, look at the girls basketball team. Wow. It's a great book. It tells you all the things you'd like to know about Austintown. We got a great place here. And I think that we live here, we should know more about it, don't you? So that's how the schools came about in a lot of these places. And this area was one. Youngstown, 1796. 1796, Youngstown started, and they had to do the same kind of things. Now, when it comes to Austintown, John McCullum started Austintown and settled here in 1798. 1798. So from 1798 to 2021, we've been here. We've been here. All right, so let's go on a little bit further. I want you to know this word land speculators. Land speculators. Now, these land speculators, what we call them today, is basically real estate agents. They would buy land. So if they're buying land in Ohio, they could be coming from Connecticut, which a lot of them did. They could be coming from Virginia, New York, Pennsylvania, wherever it was. And they would buy land, but the land speculators had to buy one section. They had to buy 640 acres. Now, whether it was $1, $1.10, $1.20, $1.50, $2 an acre, they would buy it and then they would split it up. They would split the land up. So you couldn't just buy like 5 acres. You have to buy it off a land speculator. So if he wanted to sell you 100 acres and he purchased it for $1.50 an acre, he's going to sell it to you for $2.25 an acre. You got to make some money. Got to make some money. So once he sold all those 640 acres and made a tidy profit, what are you going to do next? You're going to put some in the bank, but you're going to buy more land and do it all over again. So if you want to be rich, you heard it right here, be a land speculator. Get into real estate. It works. It sure does work. So land speculators became very wealthy. We had some like George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, all land speculators, all guys that knew how to make money, and they sure did make some money. So I'm trying to get my slide to work a little bit better than it was. Now, now that we have uh, our settling there, we need to be able to govern that area. Need to be able to make sure that it's going to be safe for people to actually live there. So the territory is going to be governed, the Northwest Territory, and they said it cannot be less than 3 states made out of it, and it can't be more than 5 states made out of it. So they end up on 5. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Those are the 5 states. Remember, they're called Northwest Territory, and that is owned by the United States government, Northwest Territory. Okay? So just remember that. Now, what they did was they would appoint a governor and 3 judges for each territory. So we're taking Ohio first. And Ohio means big river. We have the Ohio River, but the word Ohio means big river. And they were going to use Ohio as the experimental model. Now they wanted to get as many people in there as possible. As many people as possible. Okay? Did they care about religion? No. It didn't matter what religion you were. They just wanted to get people in there. And the reason why was because the British could possibly come back and take it off of us. So we wanted to get as many people in there as possible. And that's how they were going to do it. Now, if your population grew to 5,000, then you were able to elect a legislature. A legislature, okay, if you reach 5,000. Now, this is in the whole state. It's actually not a state yet, it's just a territory. We're talking about just the Ohio territory, not the whole Ohio Valley, just the Ohio territory. Once your population reached 60,000, then you could apply for statehood. You could apply for statehood. Would they reach 60,000? Well, Ohio, I think, reached 52 or 54,000. They said that's good enough. Let's move on to Indiana. But before you became a state, there were some things that you had to take care of, and that was this. You had to submit a constitution. A constitution. If they accepted your constitution, which means what? A plan of government. If they accepted your constitution, which was a plan of government, then you would have all the rights of all the states that had rights of all the other states. So you were just like any other state. That's fair. I think that's fair, right? Now, there were restrictions. And the first restriction was when you wrote your constitution that you had to be a republic. You had to be a republic, and to the republic for which it stands. That's what it means. A type of government which representatives are elected to govern on behalf of the people. So, are we a republic? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, you imagine if you're a representative and trying to get all the people to know you in a place like Ohio, people are far and few between. Instead of talking to 20 or 30,000 people at one time, like we've seen before, you might end up talking in a church to 30 people and then go on to the next place. So you can stop in Youngstown, you can stop in Austintown, go to Boardman, and just keep going your way down. So people will get to know who you are and elect you as a representative. Second thing, like I was telling you, that you have to guarantee freedom of religion. So whether you were Catholic or Jewish or Protestant or whatever you were allowed in the state. You were allowed in the state. That's freedom of religion before we had the Constitution. That's before the Constitution. Wow. Now, there also, you had to guarantee a trial by jury. Trial by jury. Why is that important? Because if there was a judge that would come through the territory before you were state, you didn't have a jury trying you for a crime. It was the judge alone. And if a judge was having a bad day that day, you might just be hanging from a tree. It's better to get judged by 12, right? So those two freedoms had to be guaranteed: freedom of religion and freedom to have a trial by jury. Very, very important. Now, this next one is also important: no slaveholding. It prohibited slaveholding. It's the first law in American history to prohibit slaveholding. And this is before 1804, when most states above Maryland tried to write laws against slaves, having slaves. So in this Northwest Territory, it was against the law to have slaves. Of course, you couldn't sell slaves either. Here's my question, and it's on your slide. If the Northwest Territory prohibited slaveholding, then why were there still slaves in other states? We have the U.S. government is saying no slaves in this territory, Northwest Territory, and that will be in 5 states. Why did the other states still have slaves? Well, here's the answer. It only banned slavery in the Northwest Territory, but it could not ban slavery in the states that were already states. They had something called states' rights where they could have their own laws. Now, they had to follow laws by the government, but remember, it's the Articles of Confederation. They could make laws, but they couldn't carry them out. So the other states are not going to carry out those laws if they even did make them. What's the difference with Northwest Territory? The government owns it. The government owns it. The government didn't own the other states like they own this. They weren't selling parts of the other states. Those states were already bought and paid for, and they were being run by governors. But now you have the Northwest Territory, piece at a time. They are selling it, and so they make up the rules. People have to follow the rules. Now, do you think that there might have been slaves in the state of Ohio? There was. Very, very few, but not for long. Not for long. So speculation is this. If you bought land in Ohio and you were from Virginia or the Carolinas, you might have brought 1 or 2 slaves with you with the idea that they will um, help you clear the land because this was so wooded, this area. Clear the land, plant crops, build a cabin, and then you give them their freedom papers. Pretty good deal. Because if you would sell them from where you're from, they would be right back into slavery. This way, if they work for you for another couple of years, they can be free. They can be free people and get their own land. So that was the promise that a lot of people made. So there wasn't very many slaves that came up through here. If they were detected and they got away with it, they might have. But for the most part, as the population grew, so did the enforcement, and they would force you to either move or get rid of your slaves. If you didn't want to follow the rules here, there's other places to go. So Ohio becomes a state in what year? 1803. 1803. All right. Have you ever seen the Ohio flag? You haven't seen the Ohio flag? We need to take a little bit of a field trip. So let me take you on a field trip here. And we're going to look at the Ohio state flag. And I know that you've seen it before. I just happen to have one hanging right here. There it is. The Ohio flag. If I can get you a little bit better. There it is. All right. On the Ohio flag, you see that it's a lot different than it's not rectangular. So we are one of the only states out of 50 that has what they call a burgee or swallowtail flag. Now, if we became a state in 1803, when did we get that flag? Not until 1902. 1902. So it took 99 years to get a flag. Well, that's ridiculous, but that's just the way it was. The flag is the same kind of flag they use in the cavalry. When you're riding on a horse and you are flying the flag, most of the times they use these burgees or these swallowtail flags because they didn't whip you so much and they were easily flown. So it's a possibility they got the idea from there. So let's take a look at the colors and see what they mean. Blue, it means hills and valleys. Hills and valleys. Hills, valleys, mountains, if we have any mountains, not really too many. The red and white means waterways and roads. So the red and white stripes mean waterways and roads. All right, so waterways and roads. So as you're looking back here, I don't know if you can count the stars. Can you count the stars and see how many there is? You should count 17. So why 17? So you might want to write this down because Ohio is the 17th state in the United States. It became the 17th state. Okay. Now you'll notice, if I can point here, there are 13 up on top and 4 down here. So why 13? Well, of course, we know that. It's for the 13 colonies, and they represent the 13 colonies. They honor the 13 colonies by doing that. And these 4 add up to 17 because we are the 17th state. So, what about the round white 0 that we see? Stands for Ohio. What about the red center? The red center stands for what Ohio is known for, like the Ohio State what? Buckeyes. You're right. So shouldn't that be maybe brown or green? I don't know. Maybe not. So that's what we have with the Ohio flag. And everybody knows that Buckeyes grow on trees. So let me ask you a few more Ohio fun facts. Does anybody know what the Ohio bug is? It's a ladybug. It's a ladybug, not a Volkswagen bug. A ladybug. What is the Ohio bird? Cardinal. Cardinal. And the Ohio flower is a carnation. It's a carnation. Okay. We've had many presidents that have come from Ohio, including William McKinley, who always wore a red carnation in his lapel. Now, I'm not going to tell you the story. I'm actually going to send you the story because William McKinley, it's only about 10 minutes long, was assassinated. He was assassinated. So I'm going to send you the story about William McKinley because he grew up right over here in Niles, Ohio. Matter of fact, through Austintown, Boardman, especially Poland, because he had friends in Poland, he gave a lot of speeches in this area. So we have a president right from this area, along with somebody like Warren Harding. Um, but McKinley was right from this area that we can um, talk about. So I'm going to send you a little video along with this PowerPoint, and you can go through this whole thing all over again. Hope you enjoyed some of that today. We're going to continue on tomorrow with section 2. We didn't get to finish it all today, but it's already 25 minutes, and I know you're ready to go already. So until tomorrow, we'll talk to you then. Bye.